going on, everybody? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. We have a good old-fashioned mailbag coming up on today's show, where it's just me and you guys chopping it up about the Minnesota Vikings. A lot going on right now around the Vikes. Brian Flores, JJ McCarthy. We'll talk about it all on today's show. We're going to start off with the diehard here, Lego fella, coming in with the first question, saying, which Vikings team is more likely to win a playoff game? Year two McCarthy and Flores stays, or land Burrow but Flores leaves? This is a fantastic question, Lego fellow. I really appreciate you for this. So, all right, so you got year two McCarthy and Flores stays, or land Burrow but Flores leaves. Wow, this is putting me in a tough spot here. Okay, so obviously, we could just call it like it is. Like if you have year two McCarthy compared to a Joe Burrow offense, we have no idea. Now, I do think McCarthy is kind of an unknown. And could he take a massive step up in year two? Absolutely. But, you would have the certainty of, Joe Burrow. I know that offense. If we got Joe Burrow, kept the offensive line, kept Jefferson, Addison, all the weapons, that would be a top three offense. One of the more explosive offenses in the National Football League. So you'd have a top three offense, and I think the Vikings defense, even if Flores would leave, would probably still be top 20. Maybe you go get a Raheem Morris. Kevin O'Connell has that connection there. Year two McCarthy and Flores stays. I would still go land Burrow, but Flores leaves. That's what I would say. Because, again, there's just too big of a question mark on McCarthy. I do think there would be more of an answer with, Flores leaving, or be okay, you could go get a Raheem Morris. You could maybe get a Jim Schwartz, one of these other defensive coordinators, where I don't think the fall-off between, Flores and another defensive coordinator would not be as extreme as, Joe Burrow, for example, and year two McCarthy. So I would rather take the quarterback, most important position in all of sports. And if the Vikings got Joe Burrow with all the weapons they have offensively, they would win a playoff game. The Purple Phil's coming in saying, if he leaves, talking about Flores, do you think we'll hire a DB coach and passing game coordinator or passing game coach Durante Jones, or our linebackers coach Mike Saravo, or someone else? There is a lot of buzz around the Vikings. I think it was Alec Lewis today did mention that if the Vikings do end up losing Brian Flores, they're more likely to go with the internal option. I would much rather go with the passing game coach and the DB coach, Durante Jones. Just mainly when you think about the Flores system, I think it's asking more out of your DBs than your linebackers. Your linebackers are necessarily just bulls in the china shop, where you are most of the time yes, you're showing some disguise, but you're mainly just getting after the ball. I would rather go Durante Jones. Don't really have too good of an answer. It's probably 51-49 there. But I would prefer the Vikings go external. I don't think any of these guys could replicate what Flores does. I would rather have another guy, a more established guy, come in, bring their own system. Have Raheem Morris come in, bring his system. Have Jonathan Gannon come in, bring his system, instead of going with a guy like Durante Jones. Maybe he would end up being a great defensive coordinator, and I could be wrong on this, but I would rather go external rather than these two internal options. Blinky, what's going on? Hot take. I think Flores would have a short shelf life as a head coach due to evidence without a fantastic offensive coordinator. He is allergic to offense. What say you? So you're saying Flores would potentially be fired quickly if he doesn't get the offensive coordinator hire, correct? Very well. It could be on the table, especially with this falling out with Tua and the whole Dolphins organization. There is some evidence there that if he doesn't land that offensive coordinator position correct, then maybe he could have a short shelf life. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like Flores, wherever he goes, that defense is going to take another level. If he goes to Baltimore, guys, Baltimore has way better personnel than the Vikings do. He would turn that defense into one of the best defenses I think the NFL has seen over the last couple of years. They would be the best defense next year. I think they would be a historically good defense. They'd be better than the Texans. They would be better than the Broncos for sure. They'd be better than the Packers. I think if Flores went to Baltimore, Kyle Hamilton would be he would be one of the best players in football. Matabike would be one of the best interior defensive linemen. They just, Roquan Smith in that system. They just got dogs. I'm not saying the Vikings don't have dogs. They just don't have the dogs that Baltimore would have. And he would just raise that ceiling, raise that floor through the roof. And also, if he goes to Baltimore, and again, it depends on the team he goes to. If he goes to the Raiders, I think I agree with you, Blanky, where maybe that shelf life would be short, since you would have to be banking on a rookie quarterback in Mendoza, banking on that offensive coordinator and Mendoza gelling. But if you would go to Baltimore, Lamar, Derrick Henry, it would just be the floor would be higher offensively. Where like I think Lamar, no matter what, would give Baltimore top 15 offense, and I think Flores would turn that into the best defense in the National Football League. But good question right there, Blinky. Jujorski going on saying, do you think Harry is coming back for another year? Doesn't sound like it. I think with all the antics at the last home game, the last game of the season, of like him coming off the field and him also joking around, and apparently he was going to come in for the last play on offense if LaFleur wasn't so much of a douchebag and wanted to get those 3 points on the board. Apparently Harry was going to go knee the ball out. He was joking around. He said, I wanted to give a little green 19, take the snap, and take the knee. So I'm going to say no. But you never know. Like, Harry could change his mind in a couple of months. Maybe starts getting that itch back. Maybe the Vikings reach out to him. Like, they pretty much had to pull him out of retirement last offseason. Like, we all thought Harry – like, don't trip. We all thought Harrison Smith was for sure going to retire last offseason. So maybe it happens again, but 1% chance Harrison Smith comes back is where I'll call it. I'll get to more of your guys' questions here in a second. But if you guys could, head on over to factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off and use code VikingsChat50 off to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Now, I absolutely love Factor. I use it almost every single day of my life. And if you guys have big goals for the new year and maybe no time to cook, Factor makes it easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs. So you can eat well without all the shopping or cooking. And Factor, why I love them, no refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, no refined seed oils, which is huge for my diet. And they got a bunch of good options. Blackened salmon, the Texas cheddar burger is great, but they have over 100 rotating weekly meals. You heard that correctly, 100 rotating weekly meals. And they're always fresh, never frozen, ready in about 2 minutes, no prep, no stress. So if you guys could, head on over to factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off and use promo code VikingsChat50 off to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for 1 year. This offer is only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Make healthier eating easy with Factor. A link will be for in the comment section and description of today's show. All right, what's going on, Big O? Saying, if we get Joey B, would you want to try to keep McCarthy and try to let him develop, or would you have to send him over? I'm assuming you would have to send him over, even though, McCarthy's stock is not too high right now in NFL circles, but I'm assuming the Bengals will at least want something in return, at least at the quarterback position, just to kind of give their fans maybe false hope. And plus, like, if you get Joe Burrow, like, you're not just trading for him for, like, where it'd be like a Matthew Stafford, where it'd be like a 1 or 2 year run. You get Joe Burrow, you're hoping this is your guy for 5 to 6 to potentially up to 8 years in this offense. So I would be more than willing to let go of McCarthy. Now, if you go get a guy like Kyler Murray, if you go get a guy like Baker Mayfield, that's another situation because those guys aren't good enough for me to just like cut bait on J.J. McCarthy. Yes, it would be better in the short term, but you never know what J.J. can develop into. So if it's Joe Burrow, kind of gotta, like, if the Bengals want him, you have to give him up. But no matter who the quarterback is besides Burrow, I'd hope the Vikings would want to keep McCarthy and let him develop behind the scenes. Landon saying, if Brian Flores gets taken by a different team, who do you think is the top candidate for the Vikings defensive coordinator? I think it's Raheem Morris. Him and Kevin O'Connell, they were the coordinators back when the Rams won the Super Bowl in 2021. KOC, the offensive coordinator. Raheem Morris, the defensive coordinator. So I would probably guess, probably Raheem. Watch out for Rich Gannon, maybe. Jonathan Gannon, excuse me. Maybe the Vikings go internal, like Durante Jones, Mike Savaro. Al Harris could be another option. Jim Leonard, Jim Schwartz. But I do think Raheem Morris would be the favorite by a pretty decent margin. Mark Spilla, what's going on? Saying, do you think Dallas Turner could be one of the best edge rushers, I'm assuming, missed out there in the league? Yeah, I think he can. I think what Turner showed, especially in the second half of the year, was like, it wasn't just the production with Turner, but it was just a pop. Like, I still remember in that Packers game, I mean, his closing speed and his get-off speed, it was different, man. And I am going to eventually go back and just watch all his pass rushing snaps this offseason just to, I'm going to try to document, like, how good each move was, or, like, what's his real, like, calling card is, what his bread and butter is. But I think his bread and butter, at least just from watching, like, the TV copy, is just his get-off speed. His get-off speed's absolutely ridiculous. He closes that gap to the quarterback where it's not just, like, good level. It's not great level. It looks like all-time level. He does remind me of Von Miller, where he's a super just kind of rangy athlete. He just is he's a freak, man. He is a total freak. And I think once he keeps on developing, keeps on putting muscle on that frame like Dallas Turner, it would not shock me if he's a guy that's eventually ripping, like, maybe he's like a Brian Burns, where he's ripping like 13, 14 sack seasons. So, shout out to Turner. Really impressed by him the second half of the year. Reed Southern saying, who do you think our number one guy is for our first round, second round, and third round picks for the 2026 NFL draft? First round, I mean, you're not going to get him, but I'll probably say Caleb Downs. If you can't get Caleb Downs, watch out for Dylan Thieneman, Oregon safety Dylan Thieneman. Go look up his highlights. This guy's awesome. Kind of reminds me of Harrison Smith a little bit, a little smaller. It does remind me of Harry the Hitman. Another guy in the first round. Vikings are in an interesting spot. Like, you could go with Jeremiah Love. I wouldn't hate Jeremiah Love. I also wouldn't hate the Vikings. Just go get a DB, like a Mansell or Delane. Take a risk there. DBs are tough to draft. But Delane would be a good option. The Terrell guy, he's an interesting option. But, yeah, we'll see. We'll see on that one. But I don't really know too much about the third round just yet. Just focus on first and second round. But Dylan Thieneman in the second round, watch out for him. He would be an absolute stud. Corey Miller. Hey, Pat, do you have any running back crushes in the draft outside of Love? Price would be an awesome option. I do like Price. Hey, if Vikings can lead the draft with either of those Notre Dame running backs, I would be thrilled. I'm going to see. I know the Wake Forest guy. Jadarian Price is number 2. Justice Haynes. Justice Haynes isn't bad at Michigan. I know he got hurt the second half of the year. Oh, the 2 guys from Penn State. I was a huge fan. And Katron Allen, so Nick Singleton will probably get all the love from Penn State. He's a very good running back. Katron Allen, if you want a bruising, physical running back who you could probably get in the 7th round, Katron Allen would be my guy. So watch out for him. Some people do have him as a 5th running back there, but Katron Allen's my guy. He did have 1,300 yards this season, but Katron Allen's an absolute stud. 5'11", 217 pounds. Anytime I watch Penn State, this guy was popping off the screen for me. 6.2 yards a clip. So yeah, Katron Allen would be probably my biggest draft crush outside of Jeremiah Love. But yeah, if you guys made it to the end of today's show, appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Just hit me with a SKOL down below in the comments section, and we'll get on out of here. As always, SKOL Vikes.